Hello, crochet friends. Welcome back. I'm Susan Lohman, the Crochet Architect. Do you love mosaic crochet as much as I do? Well, I have another mosaic crochet technique to teach you today, and this one is made with spike stitches. So let's get started. This is a swatch of spike stitch mosaic crochet. This one is done in the spike double crochet stitch, but they can also be done in the spike single crochet stitch. As you can see, this piece is reversible because you have the design on both sides. Now this is kind of a hybrid between overlay mosaic and inset mosaic. In overlay mosaic, we do one row of each color. And in inset mosaic, we do chain spaces and skip a stitch. Now in this style of the spike double crochet stitch, I'm doing one row of each color. Sometimes the spike stitch mosaic crochet is done in 2 rows of each color. Every row here is done on the right side from the beginning to the end. And there's only one color used in each row. This swatch here I've done in my comb technique. You can also do this technique with beginning and ending each row, but I prefer to use a continuous strand of yarn to do my swatch and my piece so that I only have 4 ends to weave in. If you enjoy this spike stitch mosaic crochet technique, I have a new pattern called my reversible Sashiko mosaic crochet rug. This is done in the same technique that I'm teaching you today with larger yarn and a larger hook. And I'll be demonstrating with those in this video. This is the chart that I have available for this mosaic crochet swatch that I'm going to teach you in this video. This is a free download on my website, and the link is in the video description below, so feel free to download this chart to follow along with me so that you can learn the technique. Now you can see that we have 3 different kinds of symbols on the chart, and each one of these represents a stitch. These solid squares, either dark or light, are single crochets in the main color and the contrasting color, and my main color is the dark color on here. But you can switch your dark and light around, that's fine. The squares with the solid circle are the spike double crochets, and you can see them throughout the chart. And the squares with the open circles are a chain 1. And these are always worked in the row color. These are in the main color, and when you get to the open chains, those are actually in the opposite color. So you're working with your one color all the way across the row. So if you see this in your contrasting color row, it's still with their contrasting color. It's just telling you to do a chain there instead of a single crochet or a spike double crochet. So I have the abbreviations here and the instructions for the spike double crochet and some other information about this swatch here. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and use some of the yarn that I used for my rug pattern. And this particular yarn, both of these, are by Lion Brand. This one is the Woolies Thick and Quick, and it is Hudson Bay color. And the green and the blue and the red are Lion Brand Hometown USA, and this one, the San Diego Navy, is the blue one, and the other 2 are listed in the pattern. So this is a super bulky weight yarn, number 6, and I am using an end crochet hook, which is a 10 millimeter. So you want to have a nice big crochet hook if you're going to be using thick yarn. This will be easier for you to see in my demonstration, so that's why I've chosen it. I'm going to demonstrate in my comb technique today, but you can make your swatch in the regular mosaic technique by beginning and ending each row. And I've included instructions for both ways to do this in the download with the chart. So in the COM technique, I'm going to chain 18, which I've already done. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So I'm ready to do row 1. And as I showed you on the chart, row 1 is single crochets all the way across. Now I like to start that first row in the back bump so that I get a nice finished edge at the bottom of my piece. And that's especially helpful in a rug because there's no edging added to it. The first single crochet that I'm going to work is in the second chain from the hook, and it's on the back of the chains that we work in the back bump. So I'll insert my hook into that back bump on the back of my chain and do my first single crochet. And I'm going to do a single crochet in the back bump of each chain across all the way to the end, and I will meet you when I get there. Okay, here I am at the end, and I have my last bump right here for my last chain. Here's my last single crochet, and in my COM technique, what I do is elongate the loop and pass the yarn through that loop from the back to the front. And then I tighten that up, and instead of cutting off my yarn, I will move it over to this side, and I will start row 2 with my contrasting color. Now we better check our chart to see what stitches we're going to do, because we're not going to just single crochet across. We're going to start with a single crochet on row 2. And the way I like to start these rows is inserting my hook under both loops and with my carried yarn coming across, because I'm carrying it back to the beginning so that I can use it on my next dark colored row. And then I'll yarn over and pull up a loop and chain 1. So now I have encased that carried yarn, but I haven't done my first stitch yet. So I will do my first single crochet in that same first single crochet. And that is the first stitch on row 2 with the contrasting color. Now on the chart, you can see that the next stitch is a chain 1. Okay, this is a dark one, and that is in the contrasting color. So I'm going to chain 1, and whenever we do a chain 1 on here, we are going to skip the next stitch. Right here on the bottom of this chart, it says, when working chain 1, skip stitch below chain 1. So we're going to skip our next stitch right here, and the next stitch after that is another single crochet. So chain 1, skip 1, and single crochet. Now in this technique, we're working under the front loop and the back loop, which is both loops, which is the typical way of working our stitches. Now you can see that I'm working around my carried yarn, and that's very important to do if you're using the COM technique. So we have a single, a chain, and a single. Now we're going to chain 1 and skip 1 and work 3 singles. And we're going to do that 3 times across the row. So we'll chain 1, move this out of the way for a minute, and here's the one I just worked into, so I'm going to skip this one and work a single crochet in this one. There's 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, and 3 single crochets. And we'll do that 2 more times across this row. Chain 1, skip 1, and work 3 single crochets, and I'll meet you when I get to this end. Okay, here I am close to the end. I've done my chain 1, skip 1, and 3 single crochets 3 times across. And now I'm at the end here. So the last 2 stitches are chain 1, skip 1, and single crochet in the last stitch. So we'll chain 1, skip 1, and do our last single crochet right here. Now I'm going to do the comb technique again. I'm going to elongate my loop and pass my large ball of yarn through it from the back to the front. And then I like to tighten up this loop right here, and I'll lay this across my row, and I'm ready to work row 3. Okay, we can start row 3 by inserting our hook in that first single crochet in the front and the back loop, and make sure that we're going over or under, working around our carried yarn. So we're going to pull up a loop and then chain 1. So let's find out what stitches we're working on row 3. To start, we're going to do a single crochet and a spike double crochet. So our single crochet will be in the first stitch where we pulled up our loop, and we'll just work under the front and back loops for our single crochet, and then our spike double crochet is going to be worked over the chain 1 from the previous row into the stitch on the row below. Since we're working with our dark color, we'll be working our spike double crochet into our previous dark color row, not our light color row. So we'll yarn over and insert our hook in the front and back loops. This is the carried yarn, and if you're not doing your swatch in the comb technique, you won't see this carried yarn. You'll only see the front and back loops. But I'm going to insert my hook under the front and back loop all the way to the back. This is what makes it a spike stitch. And I'm going to pull up a loop. Now in the spike double crochet, you pull up your loop a little bit higher to the height of your current row. So you have your 3 loops on the hook, you yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. And this is a spike double crochet. You see it on the front and you see it on the back. So this is what makes this mosaic crochet technique reversible, because the spike double crochet is seen on both sides. So let's see what we have next. We have a chain 1, skip 1, a spike double crochet, and 2 single crochets. So let's do that. We're going to chain 1 and skip the next stitch and do another spike double crochet. So we yarn over and find our front and back loops right here, insert our hook right there all the way to the back, and pull up a loop. And we don't want our loop way down here because that'll make the stitch too short. We want to pull it up a little higher, and then yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. So that's our spike double crochet. Then after that, we're going to work 2 single crochets, and you can see that my carried yarn is moving around here, so I want to keep it in the place that it's supposed to be so that I'm encasing it when I work my single crochets. So I'm going to work in the next stitch here for a single crochet and the following stitch. So there's my 2 single crochets. And that's what we're going to work across this row. Our chain 1, skip 1, spike double crochet, and 2 single crochets. So I'll do that 2 more times, right here, and I'll meet you at the last 3 stitches. Okay, here you can see that I've gotten to the last 3 stitches. I've done my chain 1, skip 1, spike double crochet, and 2 singles 2 more times. And my last 3 stitches are chain 1, skip 1, spike double crochet, and single crochet. So let's do that. We have a chain 1, skip 1, Our spike double crochet is in the next stitch right down here. Here's my front loop, back loop, and my carried yarn. And I'm going to insert my hook under the front and back loop and pull up a loop and pull it up a little higher, yarn over and pull through two times. There's my spike double crochet, and here's my last single crochet here. And I'm working around my carried yarn. I always want to do that on my comb technique. So we'll elongate this last loop and put our yarn through from the back to the front and tighten up that loop. And that's the first 3 rows. You can see on the back that this is reversible. So all of these spike stitches are seen on the back and the front. So we're ready to start row 4. And whenever I do my comb technique, I like to give it a little bit of tug on the carried yarn and then tug my piece a little bit too. So we're going to move our carried yarn across and grab our contrasting color for row 4, and we're ready to start that row. So to start our row, we'll insert our hook in the first single crochet under both loops, front and back, and pull up a loop and chain 1. So now we can look at our chart and see what's on row 4. Row 4 starts with a single crochet, a chain 1, and a spike double crochet. So we'll do that. Here's our first stitch still. We're going to single crochet in there. And then we're going to chain 1 and skip 1. And we're going to do a spike double crochet in the next stitch. So we're working our chain 1 over this spike double crochet, and we're going to spike double crochet around this chain 1 into this stitch down here, making sure we've got our carried yarn as well. So we'll start our double crochet and insert our hook here and pull up a loop and pull it up to the height of our current row, yarn over and pull through 2 twice. So here's our spike double crochet, which you can see on the front and the back. So let's look at our chart to see what we have coming up next. All right, here's our first 3 stitches. We have 2 single crochets, a chain 1, skip 1, and a spike double crochet. And we have that 3 times, that you can see. This is a 4-stitch repeat, as you can tell on the chart. And those are our 4 stitches. 2 singles, chain 1, and a spike double. So let's do that together. We'll do a single crochet in the next stitch. And the following stitch, there's our 2 single crochets. Then we do a chain 1 and skip this stitch here and do our spike double crochet around this chain 1 space into the stitch below. And we always want to pull that up a little bit so that it's a little taller. And that's our repeat. So I'll do this repeat of these 4 stitches 2 more times across the row, and I'll meet you at this end. Okay, here I am at the end of row 4, and let's see what our last few stitches are. We've come all the way down here with the 2 single crochet, chain 1, spike double crochet, and the last 2 are a chain 1, skip 1, and a single crochet. So we'll do a chain 1 here, skip this next stitch, and single crochet in the last stitch. And I'm going to elongate my loop again and pull my yarn through. And here's the first 4 rows. And you can see that these 4 spike stitches on row 4 are also seen on the back. So that's what makes this technique reversible. So we'll put our carried yarn over here and bring our next row color to the other side. And I'm going to adjust this to make sure that it's not too tight or too loose. So to start row 5, I'll insert my hook under the front and back loops of that first single crochet and pull up a loop, and then chain 1. And let's see on our chart what stitches we need for row 5. Row 5 starts with a single crochet and a spiked double crochet. So let's do those. Single crochet and a spiked double crochet, and we do that right down here in this next stitch on the row before the last one. We can see that spiked double crochet on both sides of the work. Now our next stitches are 2 single crochets, a chain 1, and a spiked double crochet, and we're going to do that 3 times across the row. So we'll do 2 single crochets. Make sure that carried yarn is going to be worked over as well, so it's not hiding on the back. And we want to work under the front and back loops of our stitches. So here's 1 single crochet and another single crochet, and chain 1, skip 1, and do a spiked double crochet in the next one. We're going to go under the front loop and the back loop, and make sure that carried yarn is under there too. And pull up our loop, make it nice and tall, and finish our spiked double crochet. So I will finish this across the row, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, here I am at the end of row 5, and I have 3 more stitches. So we can see here, the last 3 stitches are a single crochet, a spiked double crochet, and a single crochet. So let's do those last 3 stitches. We have a single crochet, a spiked double crochet way down here, and a single crochet. Sometimes I have to pull this out to find that last stitch. It wants to kind of fall under there and get lost. We'll pull up our loop, pass our yarn through, and tighten that up. Like I said before, you can do this swatch in regular mosaic crochet where you start and end each row, but I like this technique because if I decide to change my mind and do something else with the yarn, I have a continuous strand. I don't have all these short strands to take out. And you can do this swatch and you can rip out your swatch and reuse your yarn if you use this comb technique. Okay, so we've got our first 5 rows done, and you can see all of those spiked double crochets on the back still, and we're ready to start row 6. So we're going to insert our hook under the front and back loops of that first single crochet and pull up a loop and chain 1, and we'll check our chart and see what stitches we do. We're going to start with a single crochet and a chain 1, and then another single crochet. So let's go ahead and do those 3. We have a single crochet in the same stitch where we pulled up our loop, a chain 1, and skip this spiked double crochet, and single crochet in the next stitch. Okay, now let's check our chart again and see what we do for our next stitches. So we did these 3, and we have a chain 1, skip 1, a spiked double crochet, and 2 single crochets, and we're going to repeat that across the row working that 3 times. So let's work that once together. We have a chain 1, skip the next stitch, and do a spike double crochet in the following stitch, and that's way down here in our previous row of our contrasting color. And pull that up, finish our spike double crochet, and then we have 2 single crochets. We can adjust our carried yarn at any time. So our next stitch is right here in the spike double crochet, and we're working a single crochet there and a single crochet in the following stitch. So I'll work this across the row 2 more times with my chain 1, skip 1, spike double crochet, and 2 single crochets, and I'll meet you at this end. Okay, here I am at the end of row 6, and we have 2 more stitches left to do. And our chart tells us that we need a chain 1, skip 1, and a single crochet for those last 2 stitches. So we'll chain 1 and skip 1, do a single crochet in our last stitch. Oh, make sure you don't snag a part of that yarn when you're pulling through your hook. Okay, elongate our loop, pass our yarn through, and then we can tighten that loop. And that's the end of row 6. So we have our 3 spike double crochets here, which are visible on the front and the back. Now this is as far as I'm going to demonstrate this technique. On the chart you can see that there's a 4-row repeat, and that's rows 3 through 6. And that's what I've demonstrated. I've actually demonstrated rows 1 through 6. So depending on how long you want to make your swatch, you can repeat rows 3 through 6 as many times as you want, and then finish with rows 7, 8, and your last row. 7 and 8 are a repeat of rows 3 and 4, and the last row is similar to row 5, but there are no chain 1 spaces. So let me show you on this swatch what I'm talking about there. As you can see here, I have done 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 rows. So my last row here was only single crochets and spike stitches. There's no chain 1s in this row, and that finishes off the last row. So if I had done 4 rows less, I would have finished here, and that would have been exactly the same as the chart. But I was having so much fun, I just kept going. I hope you've enjoyed learning the spike double crochet stitch mosaic crochet technique. If you've enjoyed this technique and you have fun doing it, please consider purchasing my reversible Sashiko mosaic crochet rug pattern. The link is in the video description below, and I'd really appreciate your patronage. It helps offset the costs of doing these videos. Thanks so much for watching, and happy mosaic crocheting to all of you. Yeah, I knew that was wrong.
Start over.
Yeah, let me go back to the beginning of the row.